Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the Brohammer pod. I'm Daniel Smith, your host, and today I have with me Bruce Merker. He used to play here in Florida, he moved to Texas. Just a little couple things about Bruce. He won this year's March Madness in Arkansas. The first place prize for that was $600, and I believe he bested 61 other people to get there. Bruce has also coached a team to top 5 in ATC, so he's not just good independently, but he elevates other players around him. So, Bruce, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know the big thing is you've got that GT coming up in Texas that you're coordinating, but just tell us about yourself and tell us what you got going on.
Sure. Well, I've been playing Warhammer 40K for years and years. I saw first edition being played, and by the time I got my models together, second edition was just coming out. So I get to play with all the craziness of virus grenades and vortex grenades and all the wonderful shenanigans that happened early in the game. I left for a couple of years because of wife, kids, family, whatnot, and eventually came back. And over the last 4 years, I'd say I've been trying to get more competitive and learn and become better at the game and try to compete in the competitive environment. It's been very slow going. Right now, I'm working on the Dallas Open. It's my first big GT event that I'm hosting. I've hosted a bunch of RTCs, but this is the first major event, and so far it's going really well. First year, right out of the gate, we're still a couple weeks out, and we've sold about 70 tickets, and we're on our way to 80 tickets, so I'm pretty pleased that we hit major status with no name recognition.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I think there's a couple good things that went into that. Just first of all, Texas being such a central state, you can draw from a lot of different areas, and then with your own competitive nature, you're currently top 5 in the ITC, so you've got a little bit of name recognition going for you, and you've been advertising it well. I mean, here in Florida, we've been hearing about it for quite a few months now. I'm sure just with, again, you won the March Madness and other events you've been to, a lot of people have heard about it, and a major event is a lot of fun, so that's exciting that you got 70 people. But let's talk about what all does it take to coordinate a grand tournament, to get an event where you can hold up to 80 people, to get all these tables together, just the logistics of it, how you advertised, what did it take to get to 70 plus already?
Well, I can tell you how you should do it, and then I'll tell you how I did it. So how you should do it is you should probably start off smaller, have your local RTT events, and build up your terrain slowly over time, and build up your assets so that you can put on a bigger and better event over time. And then once you get to that threshold where you have 40 people and it's a GT type event, then you got to start looking towards your venue and what you need to do as far as that goes. And then once you get to major status, then you're looking for like a hotel with convention spacing and what do you need to do there. So the way that I did it was totally backwards, and I wouldn't recommend just because it requires a lot of money layout on the front end, and I'm going to be probably about $1,100 in the red on this, and that's okay because I'm not married, so I can't get in trouble. But yeah, there's a lot of just staying on top of things, doing things early, don't procrastinate. So I had a couple of curveballs thrown at me. I was originally planning for 64 people. I calculated that I could barely fit those 64 people into a very large gaming store that had just opened up in Arlington. Mm-hmm. And within 3 months of that store opening up, it closed. And so then I had already taken some ticket money, and I was searching for a new venue, and I got a heads up about 2 weeks before that something was wrong. And so I just started moving very quickly to secure a new venue so that as soon as that information became public, I already had another venue selected and that I could calm people's fears.
Yeah, that's a big deal because, as everyone knows, the Warhammer community is very good at panicking. So that's good forethought and planning, and I mean that's the type of thing that'll shut an event down. Just having the venue close.
It really will, and over the years, you've seen that when events have folded and they've cratered, it's a lot of times it's because they don't have a venue. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the time it's because of poor execution of the event itself. And a lot of that comes down to prior planning, and not procrastinating on tasks. Right now I've got 8 fat mats that I had ordered from Frontline, and they got lost in shipping. And usually you can count on FedEx to ship whatever it is that you need, but I've got about 20% of my mats are lost right now, and so I'm having to coordinate with FedEx and coordinate with Frontline in the event that we don't find them. Can I get more mats? And that's all working out, but it's all those things staying on top of them in the background so that when people come to your event, they don't see any of the things that went wrong because you handled them. All they see is the flawless execution, and they walk away with the impression that your event was great. There's a lot of time that goes into lining up prize support. Most of it is the assets. It's the little things. You can have 40 tables worth of terrain, but if you don't have anything to transport them in, then you're going to have problems. So I had to buy 4 crates of Rubbermaid containers, like 30-gallon containers, just to store all the terrain in, because you don't want to lay out over $1,000 for terrain and then have it destroyed immediately after the event. So because of storage.
Yep.
So it's all these little things that go into it. For anybody who's planning on running a major event, they're running RTTs and they want to take the steps to the next level, my recommendation would be to do what I did, and that's go to a lot of other major events. I've been to just about every, all of the big events, except for Adepticon. So I've been to Nova Open, ITC, LVO, a lot of the regionals, even back in the day, places like Du Bois up in New York, Delaware Open. So I got a chance to see how a lot of events were actually run. And if anybody is thinking about doing it, my suggestion is to go to the Nova Open in Washington, D.C. In my opinion, that's the best run event. They're extremely professional. It's like a well-oiled machine, and things go wrong in the background, but none of the participants see that and experience that. And if you show up to that event a day or two early and then just kind of jump in and say, hey, can I help? So they will let you help, and you can see how an event comes together like that. So I would definitely recommend going to the Nova Open and seeing how Mike Grant does his work, because in my opinion, he's the best.
Yeah, that's a lot of good information, honestly. And I would say, from my experience, going to a grand tournament, Crucible being the first one I went to, what drew me in the most was the terrain. It looked nice. It wasn't just white styrofoam glued on top of each other. The venue was very open and clear. You actually absolutely hit the nail on the head there with an emphasis on providing quality, not just quantity. A big place, hey, come play this tournament. The quality does matter. If we're putting all this time and effort into getting our models painted, based, having display trays. I mean, most of us, not everyone, but a lot of players do put a lot of effort into the army. So when we go to a tournament, that shows the organizer put that same effort into this tournament for us. It makes it a lot more satisfying, a lot more fun to play. And you don't care if you go 1-5 or 1-4 or whatever, because you're having a good time in a great venue.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm a competitive player, so going 1-4 would just be a awful, terrible, horrible weekend. I wouldn't be enjoying myself at all. But I truly envy the people who can go 1-4 and they're drinking, bourbon the whole time and having having a great day. I wish that I was the type of person who could enjoy the game that way. I did appreciate the thinly veiled jab at London GT. That's another real risk to running a big tournament, is that if you crater and you mess up, you will be lambasted because it's an extremely small, close-knit community. And those pictures of the London GT tables, they were all over the internet. And it was interesting because it wasn't just the horrible terrain and the lack of sizable terrain and the fact that they just didn't even bother to paint it, which to me really speaks more towards organization, because I heard some comments that they had intended to do so, but then didn't have the chance, and that's just not something that you can allow to happen at your event. But they made some other mistakes that I'd like to highlight as well. So when they were selecting their venue, they really messed up there, because they selected that Olympic stadium. Mm-hmm. And what they should have realized was that that particular type of venue is a high terrorist threat target. And so because of that, they're going to have additional security. And you've got a bunch of guys bringing in a bunch of bags with a whole bunch of models. Mm-hmm. And security guys are tearing all that apart to look at it, to make sure that everybody who comes in is safe. So, that was something that they probably didn't have vision into, probably didn't calculate for. They had an event for 800 people, only had one place to get food, and it wasn't set up well enough so that they couldn't get everybody fed. So it's all these little things that are running in the background, and you just have to think about every possible thing that could go wrong, and then take steps to eliminate it. Even at an event like LTO, Reese runs a really great event, and that is a huge event. And a couple of years ago, the venue didn't allow drinks back into the playing area, and they failed to have water stations, so a lot of people were dehydrated, thirsty, and complaining. So you can run a great event and do everything right and forget one little thing, and then for whatever reason, that's what everybody comes away with remembering.
Yep, and that's a funny one. Just in my line of work, I deal a lot with making sure that drinking fountains are in the right spot, making sure there's public access to all that stuff, because that's something most people don't think about, is how when you have 60, 80, 100 people in a room, they're going to have to go to the bathroom. They're going to be hungry. They're going to want to get drinks. They're going to want to have all of these. It's common stuff, and we just don't think about it on a day-to-day basis because it's always there. It's always available. You don't notice until it's gone. So that's something that it's really hard for tournament organizers to have the foresight to remember. But if you want to run a great event, you got to think about every little aspect like that. So
yeah, and if your location is kind of remote or separated, or perhaps it's in the middle of an industrial area, then you've got to have, when you're selecting your venue, you've got to have easy access to food. So you've got to actually look at Google Maps and say, okay, where's the Taco Bell? Where's the McDonald's? Because they've got to be able to drive there in 5 minutes, because they had to set up their army for paint judging, and then they got to run, and get food real fast and get back. So if you can't do that, then you've got to come up with something else. And at March Madness in Arkansas, it was really great, because they actually had a smoker set up, and they were doing barbecue right there on the spot. Had $8, and you got a real big plate of barbecue and a soda or a drink, and it was really nice how they did it. And they had other options close by, but that was something they did that was really clutch.
Oh yeah, and that's a great idea too, because that brings money back into the tournament for, in addition to your entry fees, your tickets, all that. It's a little bit of extra money that you can use to offset the costs. Like I know here, our Winter Haven store, Steve, he'll grill burgers for us on RTT days, so that way we don't have to go anywhere. $5 gets you lunch. It's cheaper than going down to most places, and it's easy. So that's a great, if you can handle that aspect of the logistics on a grand tournament, that's a great way to keep everyone happy and make a little bit of money. So that's one I didn't even think about, but that's a good point.
Yeah, and you don't want to overextend yourself logistics-wise, especially if you don't have a very large staff. So you might not be able to do that, not because it isn't a good idea, but just because your stuff's so thin, you can't coordinate getting the barbecue set up and whatnot. Maybe you go with something a little bit simpler, like, ordering 10 pizzas and then getting some paper plates and sell them by the slice so that it isn't quite as much of a burden for you, and draft one of the Warhammer widows to pass out the pizza and take money.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you just got to make sure that you can actually execute whatever it is that you decide to do.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about the Dallas Open or anything at all before we move on? Or
well, the only thing that I wanted to mention was that I'm particularly proud of the terrain that we put together. Like I said, usually you start out small and then kind of grow over the years. And for whatever reason, I just decided to, be crazy here and just right out of the gate have like 40 tables, all with fat mats and nice terrain. And then what I'm particularly proud of is that I kind of took a page out of the Nova Open book and copied their format for terrain.
mm-hmm.
So I've got two huge 12-inch by 12-inch ruin pieces in the center of the table with 10-inch high L-shaped walls to block line of sight through the middle of the table. I designed 4-story ruins that'll go one in each deployment zone. These are 5.5 by 11-inch ruins, and what's beautiful about it is that all the terrain is designed for 8th edition. So the first floor of the ruins have no windows. They're completely line of sight blocking, so I'll actually be able to play my event with true line of sight,
mm-hmm.
and you won't be able to see anything in the first level of any of the ruins. And then there's large line of sight blocking terrain everywhere on the table. So if you don't bring SMS, if you don't bring mobility, if you don't bring weapons that can shoot out of line of sight, you're going to have a bad day at this event, and it's going to balance the first turn alpha strike, and I think it's going to, 2 or 3 games into the tournament, people are going to start realizing that they've got to make decisions on where they're going to be on turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, because they've got to be in the right spot to take shots.
Mm-hmm. And that also helps melee armies, which after the FAQ they lost that real ability to deep strike turn 1 and get in your face. So being able to deploy out of line of sight and still have a chance, that again just is good for melee armies. And another thing I like I was just going to say, I like that the terrain is public knowledge. Like, you're telling people now, you've been telling people, plan accordingly. Was it Nova or whichever one right before the FAQ where Tyranids came in and dominated? That's because the terrain was light, and the Tyranid players got lucky that, hey, the terrain's light, this benefits my army, versus like LVO, the Shining Spear list, had a lot more cover, ability to hide out of line of sight so that they could deep strike the Shining Spears in, not take anything, and really have a lot of freedom, especially in the mirror match. Dark Reapers can't intercept what they can't see. So having this information up front helps everybody with list building. So that's just another small item that I think a lot of people will appreciate.
Yeah, and it's a great segue into the, what does it take to win a GT, and how do you build a great list and play it, because knowing your tournament and what the terrain is going to look like and what missions are going to be played, and even to some extent some of the players that because when I go to a GT, I kind of scan the list of players who are playing, and then I know what those players are usually playing, and I start looking at my list to make sure that I've got the tools I need to deal with those lists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I know in tournament preparation, a lot of people get so worried about building the best take-all-comers list, they don't really think about what the meta at that GT is going to be. And take-all-comers is great, but if you've got 12 people all bringing extreme, like, Alpha Legion Berserker lists, like, you're going to want something with a lot more bubble wrap that can castle up and push them back, because take-all-comers just can't handle something that extreme. So that's a very good point, just browsing the list, seeing who's signed up and preparing accordingly. Now, I mentioned it earlier, and I wanted to talk about it again. You are currently fifth place in the ITC, and that's with you don't have max wins yet. You still have one RTT. I think you said was third place. So tell us a little bit about that. How you got to over 500. You got 547 ITC points, and you had said that doesn't really matter right now. So I'm curious why you say that and how you got to where you're at.
Right. So for people who have a goal of being competitive in ITC and winning a best in faction or a best overall, you've got to understand how the points are divvied up and how they're doled out, right? Mm-hmm. So in the beginning of the season, there aren't that many tournaments. The tournament season doesn't really start heating up until probably around July with ATC, and then it gets into it pretty hot and heavy after that, and then starts winding down in November, and then LVO hits.
Yeah.
So the way that the points work is that if you win an RTT with like 4 people, you're going to get about 104 points, something like that, for your win. But when Matt Root won Adepticon, which I don't know how many people, it was a gigantic tournament, he won first place. He scored 260 points. That's like 2 60-man major events winning first place. So even though I'm 5th place overall or first place in Eldar at the beginning of the season because I've got 4 tournaments under my belt, it really doesn't mean anything. It's like elections in Russia. The points just don't matter. It's all about where you're at the end of the year. So what you really need to do if you want to be competitive in ITC is not worry about the RTTs. The RTCs are actually where you're going to do your practicing. You're going to try out weird ideas and weird lists, and you're going to see how they play out. If you don't have a den, kind of play somebody's basement where you got a couple of tables set up and you've got a ton of models in your gaming club and you're just playing all weekend and you've got a think tank going on, then you're using the RTTs to test out your list and get practice and reps on how to play and get that muscle memory, because when you're in the middle of a tournament and you're tired and you're not quite thinking clearly, especially like game 3 of day 1, that's a time that's really dangerous for making a mistake, because you've gotten to the point where it's winners playing winners, and it's at the end of the day, so everybody's tired. So that's when the muscle memory is going to come in really clutch, and getting those reps and practice in is important. But RTTs should not be played with the intent of I'm getting points for ITC, because winning a major is 130 points, and you win 3 majors, and you're just way ahead of anybody who has RTT wins. And at the end of the year, you're going to see that the people who won overall they won probably 2 or 3 majors, and then they had maybe 1 RTT to flesh out their top 5 scores.
That makes sense, and so it's to place well. It's not so much how many RTTs can you win; it's how many top 3 finishes can you get in these major events. Because, like you said, Matt Root scored 260 points for first place. I'd imagine all of probably top 8 scored way more than you get from winning an RTT. I mean, that's that's a good point. And that puts a lot more emphasis on going to these major events, which helps grow the community too. So I like the way that ITC has it set up, and you're rewarded instead of being on an equal playing field for beating 3 other players. You're being rewarded for being better than 60, 70, 80 other players, sometimes like LVO, better than 500 other players. So it's not everything's equal, not all tournaments are equal, and they do well to reward good players.
Right, and you should get more points for winning an event that has 500 people in it, because you're going to be playing the best of the best. Right now, even though I'm sitting in 5th place in ITC overall, I really considered myself only starting to break into that tier 1 bracket of players, and I really truly mean just breaking into it, because you cannot win an ITC best overall. You cannot win, any of these major tournaments, especially the ones back east, unless you go through Beast Coast. If you can't beat Nick, if you can't beat Gagno, if you can't beat Matt, if you can't beat those guys, you're just not gonna win. So you really got to measure yourself against Beast Coast, which is by far the best gaming club in America for sure, maybe in the world. I've just got an incredible amount of respect for those guys, and I really appreciate their leadership in the game, because they're really gentlemen and class act players, and they'll beat you because they were better than you, not because they played shenanigans. And I think they're kind of elevating the sportsmanship of the game.
Absolutely, and that's one thing, especially in 8th edition, I've noticed is a big emphasis because of the competitive players, the ones on the live streams, on top tables. They make a big deal out of it if you do pull a gotcha moment or anything shady. The emphasis, like you said, is winning because they're better. And I think more and more people are responding to that in a positive way, and that will do nothing but help grow the community, because a big complaint I've heard from a lot of games is, yeah, it's fun, but I don't want to play competitively because the people on top tables are jerks. And I've heard that across multiple different games. But if we can break that stigma in Warhammer, then, I mean, it's already the big kid on the block, and it's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, and that's why I really appreciate those guys like Andrew Gagno took himself out of Decepticon just because he was playing with an illegal relic, which probably didn't affect much, in his games, but he took the step of taking himself out of the tournament for it. I don't know if I would have gone to that level to just DQ myself. It depends on I guess it would depend on how I thought it affected my games and how badly it affected my games or not. But yeah, in 7th edition, the transition to 8th has been really helpful, because in 7th edition there was so much shenanigans and the formations were so confusing. Mm-hmm. That people could run, Dark Angels, all bike force, and it wasn't objective secured, their formation, and then at the end of the game they were telling people, oh, well, I got this objective because I'm objective secured, and I got that objective because I'm objective secured. It was so confusing, the game was so convoluted, that it allowed people who were willing to cheat to cheat and get away with it. And so 8th edition has eliminated a lot of the ways in which you can cheat. And so the ways that you're left that you can cheat are like moving models and over-moving models. And we're going to see it return to like 2nd and 3rd edition, where people are cheating because they're doing front-to-back model movement and getting an extra inch out of it. And that's good, because it's a lot less opportunity to cheat. And we're live streaming games now, so if you're doing that, it only takes once or twice to get caught. And the community has moved towards a public shaming of cheaters. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of on the fence about that, about the public shaming. I do think that it's a good negative reinforcement. It makes people think twice about cheating, because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to get ostracized and humiliated on the internet. But at the same time, I wish that there was a better mechanism between tournament organizers, that they could be talking amongst each other and be able to be watching out for and handle these players as a group. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy being in Texas so much, because part of the reason why my ticket sales for Dallas Open went so well is because Texas has created its own tournament circuit. And there's a tournament in Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and El Paso, and it's the Texas Championship. And the way that it works is that you go to each one of these tournaments and play your games, and they take your placing from each one, and then they take your top 3 placings at the end of the 5 tournament circuit, and the winner of that overall score gets the Texas State Championship. So it does a couple of things. One is it improves it improves ticket sales for each event because people will say, oh, well, I did poorly in the last event. I really need to go to Dallas Open now so I can do well, so I can still stay competitive in the state championship.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other side of that is that all the tournament organizers are talking to each other. So we're talking about rulings on funky, weird, ruling conflicts, so that we're all handing down the same rulings from tournament to tournament. There's no gotcha moments of, oh no, at this tournament that relic did this, but at my tournament it doesn't, and somebody has a bad day because of it. So, and then we can also kind of watch those problem players who, may be tempted to do something. People want to win, and they want to win so badly that they start making poor decisions to do that, and being ostracized and having TOs watching them, and handling it as a community is really driving it down, and the rule set has become a lot better as well.
Mm-hmm. And a big part of that, too, is if you get caught, especially doing something egregious, you're not getting banned from one tournament, you're getting banned from every tournament in the biggest state in the country. Like that's a huge downside to getting caught cheating.
Yeah. and it hasn't happened yet, but it could.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flip side of that is, in the past, a lot of tournament organizers were, game enthusiasts. They're the kind of people who open up a gaming store because of a love of the game, and then they're not a very good businessman, so they end up going under, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of TO organizers are the same. They're doing a tournament because they want all their friends, and they love this game, they want everybody to be able to get together and play in a cool tournament, and then they have an individual who's wrecking the tournament for other people by cheating, but they view this person as a customer, and they don't want to alienate anybody, and they want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and you do need to give people the benefit of the doubt, because you can be cheating, and it can be unintentional. I did it in Alamo, unintentionally. The new beta FAQ had come out. I had read the Deep Strike rule incorrectly. I'd been on travel for the last 2 weeks and didn't have a chance to play it, and I played the rule wrong. Fortunately, it didn't affect my game, although, at the end of the game, it just put a question mark on it, so it was unfortunate, but these things happen, and people do make mistakes, and so you don't want to, ban somebody for making a mistake, but if you have a circumstance where somebody's, playing with a loaded die, which has happened, and you catch them playing with a loaded die, and you do not eject them from the tournament, then that's going to be bad for your tournament. And, that's what happened with Beast of Blades. That tournament just went out of existence because of it. I guarantee you London GT will either be not run by the same people, or it will go out of existence, not because of cheating, but because of the severe problems that they had.
Yeah.
It was interesting how they played that video and posted the video of the guy cheating for everyone in the world to see. I can't imagine being that guy and how humiliated he must feel, and rightly so. Mm-hmm. But that's embarrassing.
Yeah, and that one I feel they took a little too far, because the mob mentality is so dangerous. And they banned him from all future tournaments as well. You kind of got to pick your poison. I mean, you can throw it out there, let the public shame him and give him another chance, or take him aside, tell him, hey, you had all these problems, you're not going to be welcome back. But to do both, and like you were saying earlier, I'm also on the fence about the public shaming, because an honest mistake can lead to someone being ostracized from the community just as much as malicious intent. So there's a balance there that the community has to find, because you don't want someone to get a huge uproar stirred and everyone's upset, and then he starts getting banned from tournaments when, maybe he had a Fire Raptor that he put into hover mode and forgot that it doesn't hold objectives because of one of the FAQs. Like, that happened. I was playing a game right after that FAQ dropped, and I forgot about that with my Fire Raptor. Like, that's a legit something that happened, and we tied the game instead of my opponent getting the win because of it. Like, so
yeah, it's really unfortunate when those things happen because frequently you discover it after the game, you know, and then I'm not really in favor of changing results after the game is over, just because, you know, something that happened on turn 2, you have no idea really what its effect on the game would be. I mean, from that point on, everything's a question mark, you know, the spider web of contingencies that could have happened.
Yep.
But it is unfortunate. It always puts a question mark on those games, and you never like that.
All right. Well, we're hitting about the 35-40 minute mark, which went quickly. I appreciate you coming on. If there's anything else you wanted to say, any shout-outs, anyone you wanted to say anything to, hit that now, and then we'll probably wrap this up. And hopefully I'll have you on again because I think this went really well. This was a good conversation, and I'm excited to see how the Dallas Open does and who wins it.
Yeah, I think I'm good. It's a real exciting time in the game. I got a chance to get beat by Dark Eldar at Alamo GT, so it's always fun to have a new codex drop, and somebody brings a, you know, punch you in the penis list, and you've never seen it before, so you get rocked by it. So I'm interested to see how Dark Eldar is going to shape up, because I used to play Dark Eldar before I decided I wanted to start winning. So I'm really liking that they've got some tools to play with, and they're deceptively resilient, and that's one of the keys to winning nowadays. So I'm just excited to see how the meta keeps on shifting. A lot of people get upset when they drop big FAQs, and it fundamentally changes how their army's played, and they've got to go, you know, find new tools to play. Ynnari, which I play Eldar, so Ynnari's been nerfed over and over again. And, you know, I just adapt and overcome. And okay, well, I'll play it this way. I got nerfed, but everybody else did too. So if they have any more nerfs to Ynnari, I might just have to dump them. But right now, I do still believe that they are tier 1 and they can be played. It's just not, you know, point and click like it was. Like, oh, I can just start off the table and deep strike in, and then, you know, move 48 inches across the table and wreck space, and then hug something and, you know, win. Now you actually have to play it well and think about it, which I think is good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how it turns out. You know, I'm excited to go to some of the big tournaments. I wish I could play in my own, because I'm so excited about how it's going to go. I think it's going to be great. You know, and you just want to play in it, right? And that's how we all are, because we love the game. So I'm just excited for the year, and hopefully at the end of the year, you know, I win Best Eldar, because that's the goal that I'm really shooting for this year.
Definitely. So, all right, I appreciate it once again, and hopefully we'll have you on soon.
All right, thank you for having me.